Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 91 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and Topic by Topic day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. To catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice. Listed in the description below. I'm your host, I'm your GM, I'm your overseer, I'm your Podcast of Five Rings, okay? Nothing I said made sense, because I'm Obsidian. I'm the garbler of useless things that don't make sense. There you
Chaos
go.
is a really rough life to live, isn't it?
I'm becoming the Joker. I live in a society inside of my brain that doesn't... Nothing is adding up.
Can you introduce the other people that have to live with you in that society?
There's like 100 of them. That's why that makes sense. I have 100 split personalities. All fighting at once for control.
It's kind of all just come to it. Like, could you imagine if your 100% like split personalities like cooled off and like just had a meeting and they decided to just do like a timeshare on you?
All right, I get them for this weekend, and you get this week. But you have to approve it through the Council of 10 first. I'm sorry, you didn't get clearance for this weekend. Becky's in there now.
I noticed you filled out this form, but you forgot to add on Form A from the possible list. You're gonna have to do this over again.
Don't you? That's the Dark Fortune Duelist.
Yeah, I love bureaucracy.
Time.
You know, my favorite bureaucracy is? It's the one where I never duel anybody because I bureaucracy.
when you make a Kata duelist and you don't duel anyone. Do you understand?
That is the worst.
The concept
feeling.
of love.
You know what I love to do? I want to make the greatest duelist ever, but you know what I don't want to do? Duel anyone.
Sometimes your GM forgets.
That's what the Dark Edge disadvantage is for, Meta.
You know, I saw that one. That is like the best freaking disadvantage.
Dark Edge.
No one wants to duel me, huh?
You are Zoro Arc.
You gotta keep reminding your GM. He's like, GM, I need you to create somebody who will challenge me at least by tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm not gonna meet my disadvantage quota here.
Every single session. And we got the resident wildcard Mao.
Yo.
Hold on, no, let's go back to this disadvantage.
Yeah, keep going.
You're a Kata. How is this a disadvantage?
Can I just point out real fast that even though it states like this stops working, like if you're in the Shadowlands or like another realm, I really wish it didn't. So the GM always had to come up with like a reason why you're like in the middle of you're out in the middle of the realm of Sakaku, and like a fucking samurai just jumps from the shrubbery and like challenges you to a duel.
It's a Kappa with a little bone. You'll duel me, samurai.
Or what's
of
the
course.
Chiko? Which is
Chikoku?
no the what's the animals?
Chikushito.
Yeah, it's just like some cat walks out. It's like, no, we're gonna duel.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to face it off like against a turkey or something.
Yeah. That's my fish. You ain't getting it.
It's like, bro, this is my territory. You're gonna have to duel for it.
All right. Well,
that cat just talked to me.
Well, since we're like so, focused on L5R right now.
I really can't quit. Ever since we started like talking about it, it's been really hard for me to eject from that.
I mean, it's great, dude. It's great.
I love it, but I hate it.
Yeah. Well, you have a topic, so why don't you topic us?
All right. Well, my topic is a terrible segue because you didn't hand off that football at all properly.
No. I'm sorry. I've been watching Tennessee football, and they're like really bad. So they're rubbing off on me right now.
Even just watching them makes you bad.
Yeah, they're pathetic right now. But
oh man, that's rough to hear. No, I haven't spent a lot the last week doing much. It's been pretty busy, but like on a more personal level, nothing that's worthy. But I have been working on Kata. For the 4th edition, I've been just making tons of custom kata.
You have been.
I've been just posting them up in the our Sunday group, and I gotta say, having played with this, like having so much time spent on kata, and I've spent like essentially a month working on just kata. I really hate kata.
You would not be able to tell with the amount that you've been cranking them out.
it's been crazy. It's like a factory, but I really hate kata because kata are wonderful. They're but they're so limited. A lot of the kata rules that you have, like for what the kata is in there. Oh my god, give me. Ooh. Actually, I have to take.
All
this,
right, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Edit this moment.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Big problem I really actually do have with the kata though, is that they're really limited. Like when you go to the books itself,
Yes.
they're kind of spread all over the place. I really hate that. I just a side note here. I hate any company on just a minor level when they don't release a book. Like when you're done with the series, you do not release a book that just gives every single item or mechanical feat, depending on how your game is built, in like one codex book. Just one book of like all the mechanical stuff.
So I was saying, man, they should have been doing that, but then they sold the game.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing for spells. Like if you have all these spells splattered all over different books and modules and shit, please, for the love of God and all that is holy, put it in a single like spell compendium.
I would have liked if they would have just all kept it at one place in the book instead of
I mean that's another issue entirely. But yes, I agree. I really wish they would also just keep it all in one spot.
Looking through the official kata, it's like you have very few. Each individual character has very few options. Like maybe
they're really bad.
Like if there's a couple,
handful,
there's a handful of any, and then like 2, maybe 3 for your particular school.
It's also kind of like working with a lot of the kata and seeing like it's like they actually give in the Emerald Empire at the back of the book. There's actually a really cool section of Emerald Empire, and I would recommend if you have not used this section as somebody who still plays 4th edition or every now and then goes back to it, try it out because the back of the book actually has a section where you can play as a governor or a general for an army, or even as ambassadors for like a city or something. Or even a sensei for that city, for a city and whatnot, and it gives a whole new dynamic to the game. I would recommend it. But more importantly, and on topic, there is a section back there that's about kata creation that you can help create your own kata, and they kind of give a very simplistic guidelines where they essentially use a balancing system, if you will, where if you put so much buff here, you need to put some limitations here to even it out, or don't, I guess, depending on your game. But they give you ideas and you can work off that tangent. It's a nice little point if you're not sure where to start from to work from, and that's what I originally did. I kind of started working off of that. But kata are really limiting because a lot of things that they do for you are pretty much just add a ring or something to a stat. Some of the more interesting ones are like use your honor rank to re-roll things, but those are generally not that good in a general sense unless your honor is really high or you've kind of done something to buff up your honor enough to make use of it. A lot of times there's stuff that gives like maybe +2 to something or +3, but they're like a rank 4. You have to be have to have that ring at like 4 in order to take up that kata, and that kata might costs what that ring is in EXP. And then if it doesn't belong to any school, then you can't even get access to it, which obviously has its own problems in general. When you look over all the kata, and there's a site out there that actually has it up. I don't want to say it to get them in trouble or anything, but there is a site out there you can find it that has literally all the kata on one page. And I think you just hit around, I think either under or just at 20 kata in the game overall. There's not a lot.
It's probably more than that.
I can't look it up, but actually, maybe I can look it up. I think I got it right here. This may not be all of them, but I'm probably guessing. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably around over 20 minutes. Okay, I have to take the back. 43 altogether?
Yes. The one that I just counted.
What the? 43 kata? Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. That is way more than I thought.
It's about double.
That's what's double.
Still not that, but
it's still not a lot. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot, considering how bad a lot of them are.
See, that's the other problem that I hate with kata as well, is a lot of them are really terrible. For instance, let's pick on striking as void. Not only do you have to have void 3 for this kata, but when you're in the center stance, your armor TN is increased by your void ring. That's
yes. That well-used center stance.
Yes, that's such a great bonus in your center stance. It pretty much is, but it's specifically a Kikita, in fact.
Right.
But it's a very terrible kata.
A bad kata for a bad school.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah,
so
I love the Kikita. I'm allowed to talk shit about it.
I love the Kikita too. So I know exactly the same thing. Terrible school.
Yep.
So bad.
I've been.
It's like if you want to play Legend 5 Rings, but you want to play on hard mode, play Kikita.
Especially one who doesn't use the katana, right, Obs?
Oof. That's a big yikes there. But you get a lot of kata like that. They're just not interesting, or they don't do anything. And I get the point. The point is like, oh, well, you're taking center stance, so you're not going to be able to do anything on a round. You don't want to take damage. But I'm like, but getting a void even up to a +5 is a lot of work. That is actually a lot of EXP for a pretty minor overall for the game, minor boon. It's only going to truly be shining when you get into duels, which if you're duels, then it's great, but it's not worthwhile a 3 EXP to get. It's just not worth that 3 EXP.
You know which ones are also awfully balanced?
What?
All the ones that are after the Empire rests on its edge.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The 3 after it are just all worse than it.
Actually, I will say the world is empty is not technically that bad. You quite literally will add, like, if you have a 4 void, you will add 4 keep 0 to Kenjutsu and Iaijutsu attacks. But you just can't spend anymore, because if you do, then it keeps reducing that bonus down. It's not terrible. Essentially, it's equivalent. Even if you have only 2 void, it's equivalent to the rank 2 for the Kikita school.
Right.
So, which is probably one of their only really good skills on there. Kind of where it stops 3 and 4 and anyway, not time to bash Kikita as much as I want to. But like I said, like, working on them, it kind of really sucked because I had a hard time really trying to keep within line with their own rules, because their own rules were really boring. When you start really getting into it, they're just not that interesting. And a lot of the kata generally are just not worth the EXP expenditure, because it's not just about the EXP of the kata themselves. It's also the EXP needed to get to that ring that you need for the kata. And that's where a lot of their problems really kind of shine through, is that they're not worth the time to invest to get to them at that point. There are some of the kata are certainly better than other ones. You've got like the Strength of the Spider, which is any spider bushi, but it's an Earth 3, so it feels appropriate. And then anytime once per round, if you successfully deal like 15 wounds to an opponent, they suffer a -3 penalty to the total of all the rolls next turn. That's actually a really good kata. It's really nice. That's actually worthwhile the investment for 3 EXP. And the investment to it, but that's just not the norm. And I really hated that. I really hated going off of that and working along those lines. So I found myself more and more now attempting to create kata that are doing crazy things. And sometimes I'll get in my mind, like, I just kind of want to do a theme to set. Other times I kind of want to just do like a short little connections to things. I kind of want to do like, I have this one kata set that I'm working on right now where it's quite literally you need other kata below it just to get access to those kata and a specific insight rank. But if you do have a kata, if you have the requirements met, those kata are really good. I would almost argue almost at the level of like school ranks. So you slap on an insight rank needed for them. The other problem I have with kata is that utilizing kata sucks. From what I understand, kata technically are not supposed to be active, like technically passively active on you. You're supposed to have to activate them at the start of combat. You're not supposed to have them passively on, which I've never seen anybody do that before in my life. Everybody plays it.
Everyone forgets. It's kind of just like a bit cumbersome to do.
It's because it is cumbersome and it's terrible. Why would I want to spend a simple action to activate a kata that does like a tiny bonus? When this game is because L5R is so specific to utilizing like the maximum potentiality of your actions, because the game can be very swingy, you need to every little like edge you can get in this game to potentially succeed at something. If you're spending a simple action which at lower levels will deny you the ability to make even an attack in the first round if you could, and at later levels will potentially reduce the amount of damage that could have killed off an opponent that might have saved your ally since he was able to get an explosion to kill them off and or as retaliation. It's really not worthwhile to always activate.
Which kata is worth an attack?
Yes, and that's
Not
unfortunately not many at all.
Like early on, you can kind of justify using a simple action if you can't ready your weapon for free. If you're even remembering that is also a rule.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you can argue like, well, what if I start in defensive stances? Well, then if you're starting in defensive stances, then yes, you could do it. But
yeah, that kind of rule like really benefits the more defensive ones, like some of the crane ones that give you TN to be hit. If you're like a Daidoji God's guarding, the Shiba one that just gives you plus bonuses to your guard,
then it's worthwhile for the action economy to activate them. But again, unfortunately, the game is swingy. Like, you guarding doesn't mean a thing, because if you guard and you still get hit, it's not like your guarding reduces the damage. You're still taking normal damage. So that's pretty much what it comes down to. I found a lot of fun is kind of casting the implementations of the limitations what they have aside and kind of going into the realm of, I don't want to say Kiho, but kind of going into the realm of Kiho, where you start making techniques that are really fun to utilize or feel very beneficial or worth the while the activation. I also think that in general play, and I've home ruled this for my own group as well, you can have 2 kata active at any time, and you can have those kata passively active when you start combat. So they can just be on at any moment. The only rules is that you cannot have a kata from the same ring as another kata active, and you cannot have a kata active that affects the same stat. So it's not like you're double dipping on damage katas or something, or raising up your attacks to seriously high levels.
So are most of yours like just doing a buff to attack or damage, or do you have more utility kata in mind?
Originally when I was working on them, that's what I did originally was more of just like small little buffs. I'll read some of them off to you because I feel like that's kind of give you the. So I'm going to give you like some of the first 2 that I did, that were posted up. First one was called Embers of the Edge. And essentially it's just that, actually these are kind of more unique even from the start. Oof. I'm already making a bad example of my first one. But yeah, this is kind of where I did start off, so I thought this was appropriate. Embers of the Edge essentially states that when you deal damage to opponents, you also deal an equal amount of fire damage to your fire ring at the end of the round to them. And then that would just be it. That was just all the kata does. So whatever your fire ring is, they just deal that amount as well to it. Okay. That's a fire ring 3. So it's unnegatable. You can't void it, but it's just like, it's a minor, like it's a sudden like aftershock hit or something. Another one that I had was called Gasping Blade Style. This is an air 3, and it's limited to a few schools. But when an attack is attempted against you but fails to hit, you can add your air ring to a single damage roll on the next turn. So it emphasizes like if you dodge, you can then retaliate for a little bit more damage on the attack. And that's kind of where I started off. The most interesting one that I had from the beginning was the Cold Fury Kata, which was a water 3. And it states that when you're in the full attack stance, you can reduce the armor penalty you take to -5. However, you only roll with +2, keep 0 to your attack roll instead. You don't get to keep 1, which technically they kind of even out a little bit. But I always find for damage for attack rolls that you definitely want more kept die for sure, because it's very easy to raise up your attack roll as for the roll die. So that was the kind of thing that I added in. But as time has gone on, I've added in kata that do something like this, which has a very long name, but it's Zenshu no Kuri Ashi Lightning Thunder Before the Strike. This is where some of the crazy ones I started to do. These are the more recent ones where it's like you need a ring mastery of Air 3 and Fire 3. Any school can take this kata, but you must know 1 Fire kata and 1 Air kata, and you have to be Insight rank 2. The effect is very simple. Every time you inflict 10 wounds or I should say move 10 feet, your next damage roll deals +1. These effects can stack, but you cannot go higher than your air ring plus your fire ring added together. At the end of the skirmish duel, any bonus damage is lost. So the point is that every time you're doing wounds or every time you're moving, you keep adding on damage as you're moving or attacking. So the next strike is always going to be stronger than the last, so to speak. And that's the point of the kata. And that's some of the crazier, and that's some of the stuff that I've gotten done along the way. Another one I've done is called, let's see here, which one do I want to pull from? Let's do a Shell of Sand. This was an Earth 3. Again, it falls into the Zenshin no Kuriashi line, but it's an Earth one. But essentially states that you reduce the amount of damage you take equal to the amount of raises your opponent made in their attack. And there's some more custom stuff because I've added also in like my own conditions because the game quite literally states like this can't cover all of them, but you know, like if you want to try something different, by all means. I added a condition called off balanced, where if you successfully perform that raise for that combat maneuver, your target's water ring is also considered one rank lower for their next movement action. So that's the kind of stuff I've done with Kata more, and I find them a lot more interesting. They start to move into like what Kiho territory is, but I find that like in a game that is quite literally tolerated by just generally most people, magical samurai as a very affectionate but kind of on the nose point for the game. Things should be a little bit more magical. I just feel like that's very important for this game. They really should be a little bit more magical in nature. But that's what I found. Yeah. And these, I feel, and I hope, is that when my players take them, or if they even do take them, that it feels worthwhile for them to take these.
Well, Bushi kind of need to be buffed in general anyway, so...
Yeah, there are so many Kiho for what... Like, how many people actually play monks regularly?
Some people lock them a lot.
Some people do, but, I mean, there's not...
But, like, Bushi and Shigenja are definitely the more common ones.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
For sure. There's
it's more like... Mostly it's people who like the Togashi monk, because it is just fucking busted.
That's the problem. It's
so
really
many Kiho compared to
yeah. There are a lot of Kiho. They're splattered all across books, but the Kiho are really good too. They're a little bit all over the place with their numbers, but they're balanced a different way. But I mean, they're really good. And the biggest part about Kiho is essentially they do what Kata should have been. There's 4 types of Kiho: internal, karmic, martial, and mystic. And you can technically have one of each up and active at any time. So you can have one internal, one karmic, and one martial on at any moment. And I believe, I'm not sure if I can't remember if that actually applies to mystical or not. I think it does. But you know, somebody can always correct me if I'm wrong on that. But you can have one of each up at any moment. So you'll have literally 4 Kiho rocking at the same time. So you can have like your fists on fire, you're healing yourself every round, you've suddenly gotten reduction, and on top of that, you have I don't know, the ability to like sense presences around you for the void one, I guess. So there's like all that. You can have all those things going on at once, and most of them you arguably will be like, well, you know, they take either void points to activate, or you have to like spend a simple action to do them or something. But a lot of them also don't have durations either. They'll just keep going until you turn them off. There's a lot of them that are like that. But I mean, most of them, as time goes on, again, they kind of scale. So as you get stronger, they'll last longer too. So spending actions on them is not that big of a deal. So that's kind of like their balancing factors. Like you can't always have them active all the time, but I mean, like if you're readying for, like if you're saying your allies are readying to like pull out their weapons to fight, your monk is probably activating their Kiho along with them.
Sure.
So like you have Kiho, and that's kind of like where I'm really pulling a lot of inspiration from now, at least in the idea of them. But I'm trying to keep it very martially inclined. Like the idea is that, you know, these are martial folks; they should be doing martial things. But I feel like Kata just really should have been made better, and that really is an area I think that should have been expanded.
Yeah, the Kata are pretty cool.
The Kata are really fun. I think they are really enjoyable. I just hate the fact that there is. There is so few of them in the official books, and they're not that great. They honestly feel like a trap for new players and new character, or for new players who don't really know that Kata really aren't that great overall. And it's just kind of a shame, really.
Unless it's World Rests on its Edge.
Unless it's World Rests on its Edge, which is like
everyone has.
Everybody should take that. There's really no reason to take that Kata.
Now?
I just, yeah. I would like to.
Have you been a bad boy, Mal?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I would just like to see those kind of areas be more touched on, and I would encourage people to really work on them because I really hate having to work on them. I honestly,
house
I never
ruling's
feel
cool,
like,
man. I mean,
I
people
love
should
house
experiment with stuff.
I should say I love house ruling. I actually find house ruling very tedious. It really sucks to go through a book and I'm reading and I'm like, And I see some people say, well, you should try it before, like you should utilize it in a game before you actually play it. And I'm like, okay, well, first off, most campaigns can run for 2 years. Okay, that's generally how campaigns tend to run. The other issue is that some things are just blatantly bad, and some things are just blatantly good. Empire's Rest on Its Edge is blatantly good. It's really clearly good. And things like adding your void ring to your armor when you take up the center stance is just not that great. And then you get weird ones like the striking is water, which is like when you're in the water stance, you add 5 more feet speed to your movement, but it's a level 4 master. You have to have a water 4 to even have that. I don't need that kata at level 4 anymore. I don't need it. I'm already moving as a free action. I'm already moving 4 squares, 20 feet. Why do I need a new 25 feet? Why? That's too late.
That's what full attack is for.
It's too late.
Actually, it's in the errata. Was it meant to be 4 when all the other striking is 3? They're like, yeah, it's a more powerful effect. We thought it would be best at 4.
No, it's not a powerful effect. I moved 5 more feet. Awesome. I can get on top of my opponent 5 feet closer now. He just has to be within 15 feet as opposed to freaking 10. I'm like, it's just like, but that's like the kind of thing is like I say, it's like their reasoning is like it's really more powerful. I'm like, it's not. It's really not. That kind of stuff is not strong in any shape or form because you also have to be in the water stance. The moment you step out of that stance and go into fire or air or earth, it doesn't activate.
Right.
So even if your opponent is far away and you want to approach them carefully, but you'd want to use that kata to kind of help close the distance so you can get them closer on your turn, but it would mean that like they might, get up on you, then you either have to stop early enough and hope that they still try to approach you, knowing that you'll be able to turn on your next turn and go after them, or you just take up the defense stance and get really close to them. Because maybe you can't, try to, get them to try to get closer to you before you move in on top of them. Maybe you can't do that. Because if you do, you'll put you out of range for something else or some objective you're trying to achieve. Or maybe you have to get on top of them, but you don't want to be hit because you're spending a simple action to get up there. Well, I'm going to take up the defensive stance because I'd rather not get hit than move 5 more extra feet. So, you get stuff like that.
As much as we love this game, it is far from perfect. And house ruling is definitely something to help.
Yeah.
I don't know what y'all talking about.
Oh yeah, you're going to have 0 house rules.
Yes, 0 house rules. But yeah, but like I said, I've been working on the kata for a lot. I hope to keep churning out more. I do actually enjoy creating them. I just hate kata for kind of like how terrible they are and like the level they're supposed to stand around. But it's hard.
Eventually, we're just going to go through the entire book and make our own 4.5.
That is like halfway there.
That. I'm already doing that, and I still go back to it every now and then because it's a very slow process. I still go back to it now and then. I'm like, man, some of these, there are some. Not to jump on a tangent, but here we go. There are some schools that really need
oh no, my computer
changes.
crashed, and all my Kakita. All my Kakita changes are gone.
I was like, your computer hasn't crashed, Mal. I can still hear you.
No, I meant from earlier when it blue screen for unplugging my microphone.
Oh, gotcha.
I had a word program up with the Kakita stuff.
It's trying to tell you not to be a Kakita. It's trying to save you from.
No, it was just change what I would change.
A fate irreversible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kata, man.
Yeah.
I would say if you're ever running a game, absolutely make kata. Go in there, just have fun with some kata. If it's crazy, you can always just tell players like these are all experimental. I want you guys to pick them up, try them out. But like if it's too strong, we can tweak them as it goes. But give Bushi kata. Seriously, make your Bushi players have some fun. It's kind of really dull that they're just leveling up stats and nothing more. It really is.
They're trying to get them spicy ranks.
Yeah.
That's all they get.
When you're getting a game. Wait, which one have you used next in this list?
It's Mao.
So, okay, it is Mao. Okay, well, I want to say because
give him a segue.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do right now. Yeah, I'm ready to segue into him because I got nothing more to say. I've bitched about Kata enough. I don't know where to go for this one. Talking about Kata, it's really hard. I know because Kata are fun. Like I said, I was saying, but like for Bushi, give them for your Bushi. It helps them really immerse them into this game. And